Jiang Chen thought for a moment and then released some intelligence on the public channel. The intelligence released by Jiang Chen caused a huge uproar among all the lords. Many time travelers are currently focused on the struggle between Jiang Chen and Zhang Ling. But the third message was truly terrifying. Everyone knows how powerful and terrifying the Lord's talent is. It is a multiplication that lasts all. In comparison, killing 10 lords would be nothing to these lords who are blinded by greed. The communication platform of the Book of Lords is so convenient. It is no longer possible for a large number of transmigrators to unite. And this is exactly what Jiang Chen wants to see for the time being. Jiang Chen felt himself becoming increasingly evil. The green weapons in the shop were cleared out on a large scale. Many previous deaths of lords had been found to be suspicious. This was just a casual move, and he didn't care what happened to the transmigrators afterwards. Many people, including the transmigrators themselves, believe that transmigrators are a special race, different from humans. Jiang Chen checked the imings from about the main city and found that he had enough materials. The upgrade time is getting longer and longer. This time it has increased to 6 hours. Jiang Chen suspected that when the main city was upgraded to level 17 or 18, a group of skeleton soldiers walked in from outside the territory. Jiang Chen looked at the blood-soaked, disheveled half-orc on the ground and laughed. This orc is none other than York Jr. This is also a 9th-tier orc warrior, and he is very young. Young York looked up and saw the face he longed to see. His feelings extremely complicated. He was ordered to lead an advanced team to find Jiang Chen's lair. He began to realize that something was wrong. This is no undead army that a necromancer could command. He could also sense the chill in Jiang Chen's words. But Jiang Chen had a feeling that Sisca wanted to boil him alive. He took off his clothes and entered the hot tub. Jiang Chen summoned 100,000 5th-tier skeletons, soldiers, 10,000 skeleton mages, and 20,000 skeleton archers this time. They were no longer a single type of unit as before. The price was that Jiang Chen felt nauseous. When Amy helped him out of the bathtub, he was practically floating. Jiang Chen is the only one that is currently usable. Jiang Chen could only feel his legs shaking. He had a premonition that if things continued like this, there really isn't a single drop left. Sisca thought about it and realized that it made sense. Alchemy and potion making are among the best in this field. After a whole day of intense labor, the results were remarkable. Outside Jiang Chen's territory, there were countless skeletons. Meanwhile, in Blackrock City, Old York felt uneasy. His son had been gone for a day. But they were just a few thousand low-level skeletons. Even if they failed, they could always escape and come back. After all, he was a purple-level hero who had experienced many trials and tribulations. He still felt a sense of unease at this moment. He would lead the team deep into the ice plains. His son was the culmination of his efforts. It was a scene that looked like being in hell. This is no ordinary undead force. It's practically the true undead scourge of the desert. The area near the far north is mostly ice fields, with absolutely no cover. Jiang Chen's army of undead was discovered just a few kilometers away. The best way to deal with undead is with blunt weapons and fire-based attacks. This type of weapon is very effective at close range. It is not as far-reaching as a powerful bow. The archers in Blackrock City were of varying quality and limited in number. The best thing about undead units is not that they don't need logistics. Small-scale battles don't have a particularly large impact on morale. To put it bluntly, war is all about fighting morale. Once that spot is shattered, the undead's life force will be cut off. His persona strength was not enough to veer on the battlefield. For every skeleton he killed, 3 or 5 more skeleton soldiers would fill the gap. He is not yet able to play a significant role on the battlefield. The master who forced her to sign contract was incredibly cunning. Jiang Chen was only concerned for her safety. Jiang Chen snorted as he looked at York. The city walls were now being held back by the skeleton soldiers. Their power is even less than that of a regular dynamite. However, Jiang Chen had far too many skeleton mages under his command. Many of those York brought to the city walls were guards of caravans within the city. These people were not very resistant to resistance. There was no fierce street fighting as expected. Jiang Chen did not kill them. Blackstone City was still of some use. Jiang Chen sat in the seat that York had once occupied. Blackrock City, a level 9 orc city, has been discovered. Jiang Chen was slightly disappointed that Blackrock City was only level 9. Blackrock City, a level 9 orc city, has been captured. York, who was surrounded by a barrage of fireballs, miraculously survived. Old York became agitated and shouted angrily. Old York had many sons, but only young York was truly accomplished. He still had to hear it with his own ears before he would be satisfied. Jiang Chen has always completely disregarded such words of surrender. He absolutely would not allow such a force. Compared to subduing York, a stable rear area is what Jiang Chen needs right now. The moment Jiang Chen entered the city, he took control of all the merchant guilds. Jiang Chen opened the Book of Lords and found the blueprints for the teleportation portal. These blueprints were inherited from Zhang Ling's Book of Lords. Jiang Chen could buy a lot at once. The number of people who can collect it is extremely limited. However, this thing is indeed worth the price. Inside the gate were purple spatial ripples. He realized just how stupid Zhang Ling was and how lucky he was. Jiang Chen's assessment of Zhang Ling was absolutely correct. She was truly a fool who acted without thinking. This method is expensive, but its advantage lies in its stability. However, this method is a bit wasteful of people. It is very likely to drain the mage who is being used as a battery. However, Jiang Chen is wealthy and powerful. Legalists are rare in other forces, but they are not lacking in Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen has 10,000 skeleton mages under his command. The undead using this method to recharge is a tradition in itself. Jiang Chen was simply making perfect use of the advantages of his troops. A single skeleton mage is useless and fragile. The portal is related to the coordinates of the territory. The most valuable thing a teleportation portal is a space crystal. Jiang Chen thought for a moment and said, "It is disguised as a commercial city." Jiang Chen didn't answer her, but the meaning in his eyes was very clear. The kind who works alone and has no management experience. Luo Jia has some experience in treasure hunting and fighting, but Luo Jia felt belittled for belittling herself before even trying. Using undead to control orcs and grey dwarves is absolutely not going to work. The undead have such a terrible reputation in this world. The orc lieutenant was brought up and knelt on the ground. Bruce looked up, his eyes filled with excitement. At this time, Luo Jia said with some dissatisfaction, "That guy is not trustworthy." Jiang Chen knew of course that Bruce was untrustworthy. First of all, Bruce wasn't a hero, and he only had one life. He wouldn't have chosen to betray him. He could do it just as easily the second time. Her subordinates would automatically get everything done. Jiang Chen had originally planned to build Blackrock City into a fortress. However, upon seeing the captured supplies, Jiang Chen immediately abandoned this plan. Jiang Chen roughly estimated that the seized supplies alone were worth over 1,000,000 gold coins. Jiang Chen decided that he would not only preserve Blackrock City. Making money is nothing to be ashamed of. The total number of troops defending Blackrock City was only a little over 3,000 steps to 3,000. So this is mostly filled with caravans from other places and their goods. As soon as they returned to the city lord's mansion, Lawrence came up to report. Koshi was the slave trader who sold Amy to him. Luo Jia stood behind Jiang Chen, looking at Koshi with a dangerous gaze. This is the guy who kidnapped her sister. Luo Jia wasn't good at reasoning. She was better at persuading people with logic. It is estimated that under the circumstances of the crisis, Kexi had a bitter look on his face. The forces behind them would definitely not let Jiang Chen rob them of their money. They could tolerate being requisitioned by York. But if Jiang Chen were to forcibly take it, that would be a different story. This is a rule that all major powers tacitly agree on. His words were merely a warning to Kexi and the hidden forces behind him. He knew there would definitely be a but to come. It was simply a matter of paying for renovations. He assumed the powerful figures behind him would agree. Kexi couldn't believe that Jiang Chen would even sell alchemical potions, a strategic resource. They are things that money can't always buy. The Mage Council is a bunch of greedy parasites. Jiang Chen has now provided them with such a channel. No one was idiot enough to say that they were disrupting the market. Having his trick exposed, Kexi smiled but said nothing. They might not know how much benefit centralized commercial management would bring. However, they are indeed very similar to humans, intelligent and skilled in using tools. It is said that among the slaves favored by human nobles, Kexi led Jiang Chen to his shop, where they saw the fox people he had mentioned. These slave traders were one of the key targets. Some of them looked even younger than Amy. There are 5 fox girls in total. They are all cute girls with drooping fox ears on their heads and a big. The biggest difference between fox people and cat people is probably their tails. The fox spirits raised their heads and looked at Jiang Chen with their big. They are both timid and dislike conflict. Jiang Chen was somewhat interested in the word and gestured for Kishi to continue. He also knows that Zhang Chen is not short of money. He would have signed a contract with these fox women. Having someone whose loyalty cannot be guaranteed is always a potential problem. They are the type who will seize any opportunity to defect if there is no contract. Zhang Chen had heard that these fox people were quite clever. The fox women looked at each other. These fox women are even more intelligent than the cunning goblins, so they have managed to get to where they are now. They were able to eat their fill. This was an exceptionally good treatment they couldn't even imagine after becoming slaves. No, more often than not, they are under the threat to exploitation or even war. Free citizens, however, have many more things to consider. Lenny the Fox's loyalties has increased by 25, currently at 67. Fox Girl Annie's loyalty has increased by 21, currently at 66. Fox Person Jasmine's loyalty has increased by 22, currently at 63. The overall loyalty of the fox people has increased significantly, exceeding the passing grade. It seemed that the fox people weren't truly born rebellious. Zhang Chen nodded, offering no further comment on her actions. It doesn't matter if their loyalty is a little low. Zhang Chen is best at making empty promises. The younger fox girl was still somewhat incredulous. She even thought it would be wonderful to become a slave. Lenny the Fox's loyalty has increased by 10, currently at 77. Fox Girl Annie's loyalty has increased by 10, currently at 76. Fox Person Jasmine's loyalty has increased by 12, currently at 75. The Fox Spirit's loyalty has risen to another level. The Fox Girls turned pale with fright. She also revealed her fair and tender breasts. Amy, who was standing next to Zhang Chen, immediately yawned. The damage caused by their betrayal is the greatest. Zhang Chen raised Satan to stop her from saying what she was about to say. They were forming cliques and engaging in factionalism. The fox people were too clever for their own good. They've just arrived and are already banding together for warmth, trying to squeeze out their seizures. Lenny's face turned pale, and he bowed his head in fear, replying, "Yes, master." She was furious and wanted to confront them. Zhang Chen activated the Destiny Guide and opened the golden treasure chest. It was a rare and excellent defensive item. Zhang Chen didn't quite understand what the note said. Well, the emperor would instantly become an unruly tyrant. All that talk of wine pools, meat forests, and nightly revelry is utterly outdated. Those who say there are no fields that get over-cultivated. Zhang Chen felt his power being further enhanced. The special effect of the immortal heart would slowly but permanently improve Zhang Chen's physique. He was clearly a swordsman and did not have any inherent skills with hammers. Zhang Chen could only temporarily put the item into a corner of his spatial ring. Some people in the castle tossed and turned. Luo Jia didn't think much of it and casually said, while lying on the bed, "Luo Jia is actually not very old." However, in the Chaos Continent, regardless of race, everyone is extremely enthusiastic about having children. She definitely would have pounced on her and scratched her face to punish her. There's definitely a reason why cats and dogs have never gotten along. She sadly discovered that Zhang Chen didn't seem to be interested in girls with her figure. She could only set her sights on her older sister. Now that her sister has taken over, it won't be long before it's her turn. Trading volume not only did not suffer, but gradually became more active. The commercial area of Black Rock City was mostly filled with various stalls. But now, Zhang Chen has set up several areas. A very complete unified market price system has been established. They do know that this method is very convenient and benefits many people. Therefore, there was little objection to a necromancer taking over Black Rock City. Zhang Chen opened a shop selling high-end weapons and armor. This is a measure taken by Zhang Chen to prevent large-scale hoarding and monopolize a stew. The far north is not lacking in mineral resources. The purpose of war is nothing more than resources. The vast majority of them can be traded. This is also based on Zhang Xin's enormous power. He would have been killed in no time. However, Luo Jia's attitude seems to have changed recently. She has lost all of her previous carefree and easygoing demeanor. Zhang Chen is doing fairly well, but Diana is not doing so well. Not long after Zhang Chen left, the anticipated pressure from the Holy Alliance arrived. The monthly stipends and resources never arrived. This made Diana, who had already anticipated this, after Zhang Chen's reminder, finally lose her temper. Excuses, all of them are just excuses. The Elf Empire, in the center of the continent, has no shortage of food. But, seeing Diana's chest heaving with anger, he wisely remained silent. Nothing too serious is likely to happen. But she really had no other choice. Now Diana could only rely on herself. Therefore, signing a contract is very necessary. This shows that such a thing was already completely exhausted when Zhang Chen saved him. He appeared at the teleportation array with Luojia and Lawrence. Military Orclit is manageable. There shouldn't be any major problems in the short term. Orcs are reckless, but not all of them are fools. Diana's frown didn't stop. Her face turned deathly pale. The Alliance will definitely not have a place for her anymore. What Zhang Chen wanted to do was to force those behind the scenes to their dominance. Zhang Chen is now playing the role of a lunatic. A fierce look appeared on her face. She might as well have gone back to being a decorative vase long ago. This was the rule, and she figured the orcs wouldn't care about that. Lawrence stood at the main entrance, like a statue. Luo Jia became a little awkward and flustered. He had to use force to get this rebellious black cat out. Zhang Chen felt he needed to have a serious talk with Luo Jia. Zhang Chen looked at Luo Jia strangely, her expression turning somewhat fierce, as if she had made up her mind. Zhang Chen knew exactly what Luo Jia was up to, but he was immediately enraged. Zhang Chen absolutely could not tolerate such a thing, and immediately retaliated with a crackdown. Zhang Chen's power was inferior to Luo Jia's. Zhang Chen was suppressed by Luo Jia. What followed was suppression, resistance, and more resistance, a tyranny. Zhang Chen was also in good physical condition. Zhang Chen ultimately became the kind of person he despised. Zhang Chen watched as Luo Jia wrapped bandages around the cumbersome garment and casually asked Chusist. She was the one protecting Zhang Chen before. He took it and checked out its attributes. Then a genuine smile appeared on his face. They were naturally pleased with Zhang Chen's generosity, not to mention someone like Luo Jia, who has a somewhat greedy personality. She just wanted to see what was going on. Zhang Chen had 2 breakfasts delivered, and he and Luo Jia ate them together before leaving. Zhang Chen didn't mind, Zhang's didn't mind. There would be plenty of time when they returned to their territory. Right now, the important matter was more pressing. She was the first woman Zhang Chen met after he transmigrated. Zhang Chen ordered a tent to be set up. This was one of Zhang Chen's hobbies. He could learn about the customs and traditions of the various races on the continent. He never knew when it might come in handy. He would have looked like a burly. His combat strength is definitely not just at the purple level. It was a rather clumsy attempt to intimidate Zhang Chen. This is completely different from their own script. He had brought 2 powerful orange-level heroes with him. This time, Zhang Chen was always a little curious. Rocky would be very surprised if he actually attacked Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen was acting far too confidently. His life or death would be uncertain. Zhang Chen looked around at the rhinoceros cavalryman glaring at him and said, the more arrogant Zhang Chen appeared, the more cautious Rocky became. He was quite familiar with some of their internal channels. Zhang Chen took out the document he had prepared in advance and handed it to Rocky. It was just an ordinary piece of parchment, without any supernatural power binding it. It was clearly a peace treaty that existed only to be torn up. Rocky glanced at the treaty. It had no binding force whatsoever. Zhang Chen smiled and said something profound. Zhang Chen's actions were no different from those of arms dealers. He could always rob other orc tribes if necessary. Zhang Chen is a tough nut to crack. Zhang Chen was slightly surprised to hear this. The atmosphere naturally became much more relaxed. Once the deal is done, Zhang Chen becomes half an ally. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. He decided to just sit back and watch Zhang Chen fight them. The struggle for the crown prince has reached critical moment. The talent for talking nonsense was even more effective than Zhang Chen had imagined. He was still essentially a purple hero. He was easily fooled by Zhang Chen's words and lost his bearings. This is equivalent to a very powerful. The way it works is undetectable to anyone. Lord talents are essentially fragments of divinity, with ridiculously high rank. Zhang Chen could easily crush those nobles who only resort to underhanded tricks. Both parties were very satisfied with the transaction. He could find him at his orc shop on East Street of Avalon. Zhang Chen was very satisfied with the agreement he reached with the orcs. The nobles of the alliance were not so happy. They absolutely could not bring up the matter of bribing other races in public. The charlatans of the Holy See would also make them pay. Substituting into the conversion formula, these people are nothing. The group was led by a middle-aged nobleman. She was only at the 2nd tier. She was still relying on his influence. However, this was something Zhang Chen had promised before. Zhang Chen was really afraid that Diana, for a future duke, killing a descendant of a sinner's family is an incredibly simple matter. They had seen this scene countless times before. They believed this time would be no different. He was so easily bought off and divided. His next step was very likely to be to kill someone directly. Diana took a sip of tea expressionlessly and reminded her, he is an honorary earl. Even when cursing, one cannot use foul language, because that is considered aristocratic refinement. These people have been wrong about one thing from beginning to end. They have even forgotten that this continent is a chaotic continent. Might makes right, but the strong will always be the ones who set the rules. Unfortunately, this was not the Church of the Holy See. The meeting room used for negotiations was instantly filled with the smell of blood. Even Diana and Klein were stunned, not expecting Zhang Chen to make a move so suddenly. This situation where everyone is in an awkward position is bad for everyone. His eyes held no trace of amusement as he looked at the terrified young priest. Zhang Chen deliberately uttered words that had no causal relationship whatsoever. He would have been dead the moment he said he wanted to purify his necromantic power. Saying such things is an insult to his intelligence. Zhang Chen is always the one who tricks others and makes empty promises. Zhang Chen smiled as he looked at the young pst. Diana didn't know what Zhang Chen wanted to say, but she nodded nonetheless. In reality, she was so flustered by Zhang Chen's bizarre actions that she couldn't think straight. The instant death spell was immediately activated. The two priests and several young nobles were completely speechless. The Templar Knights are the face of the Church of Light, but killing Dave is a completely different matter. The young pastor seemed to have found a weakness and retorted. At this moment, he felt immense regret. Even giving Dave an honorary baron title would have been better. Zhang Chen has enough means to get away with it. He is entirely capable of doing such a thing. The former was merely a failure of this operation. To be honest, the matter of dividing up Violet's territory is no longer that important. The latter almost meant that his future in the Holy See was completely ruined. Zhang Chen was very satisfied with the young pastor's pragmatism. He looked at Diana and continued to ask. The young nobles on the other side felt as uncomfortable as if they had swallowed flies. She would have been laughing with unbridled joy. The upturned corners of her mouth indicated that she was about to burst out laughing. She swore she had never been as happy as she was now. The young nobleman opposite him looked like he'd just swallowed a fly. Zhang Chen has truly mastered the art of political maneuvering. His reliance has always been on his own strong strength and army. The delegation sent by the nobles ultimately had to leave in disgrace. The barbaric totem on Luojia's body alone is irrefutable proof. This orc prince couldn't explain it, even if he had 100 mouths. Rocky would probably cry his eyes out in the bathroom if he heard this news. He was still very certain of his thoughts. In Zhang Chen's eyes, the League is now even less than an easy target. The Alliance has numerous internal problems. The existence of the Holy See is constantly undermining the Alliance's foundation. The cases of the Kleinord and Violet families are two typical examples. They were all like rats with guns, bullying only in their own nests. They had never seen a real tiger. It is foreseeable that they will all be old. The army could not be commanded as a unified whole. The coalition's advantage is its troops' strength. Of course, there are rules to be followed when it comes to granting amnesty. An alliance would not grant amnesty to a bandit camp of 100 men. The rest of the story is simple. Zhang Chen faked that he was a descendant of the Kleinold family. Diana carefully reviewed all of Zhang Chen's plans and found almost no loopholes. She could only admit with frustration that she was no match for Zhang Verchen. In fact, Zhang Chen's plan was not that complicated. It was all about recklessness. She had planned so much and tried all sorts of methods. Zhang Chen also built a portal in the city of Silviedo. She moved her personal belongings to Zhang Chen's room. She returned to her previous carefree nature. However, Amy is responsible for cleaning the room every morning. Zhang Chen has plenty of time to waste with them. Zhang Chen returned because he had finally accumulated enough points. She bought 100 weapons and 100 pieces of armor. The real money is made by doing business with local powers. Zhang Chen always felt that the system was playing tricks on him. Zhang Chen still strengthened it without hesitation. Zhang Chen knew very well that there was never too much energy. The main city also began to slowly expand. Zhang Chen felt a bit troubled, but at the same time, he was also excited. The level 10 main city is a watershed moment. This means that his territory has reached the threshold of becoming a major power. In just over a month, it has developed to this scale. Equipment may be brought, the assessment, but unit types and heroes are not allowed. Teams are allowed for the assessment, with a maximum of 3 players per team. Suddenly, the Book of Lords released a Lord's assessment at this times. This Lords are still not allowed to bring troops or heroes. The assessment is to evaluate the Lord's own strength. At the scarecrow figures standing in it, the top-level gold-grade items and building blueprints were so numerous that practically dazzled. They have followed behind troops to finish them off. Jiang Chen really does have a purple weapon, and they even released 200 items at once. Jiang Chen must have the blueprints for purple weapons. A hidden pro has popped up here. This assessment won't result in any deaths, so rounding it up is practically a pure profit. The weapons being sold were being consumed at a rapid pace. The sales of mana restoration potions were also very good. These were the people Jiang Chen was paying close attention to. Most time travelers have a very clear understanding of their own abilities. He had no intention of listing any other weapons. Jiang Chen received a large amount of high-level materials. He even received a purple armor blueprint. This stuff is obviously top tier even among purple armor. The channel was filled with messages from people with messages wanting to team up with him. Jiang Chen did not intend to team up with anyone because he had too many secrets. They would cause him a lot of trouble. Zhang Ling's situation was definitely not accidental. Jiang Chen felt a powerful attraction pull him into an unknown space. This method is completely different from spatial magic. Jiang Chen shook his head, looked around, and found that it was a dilapidated city. Traces of war are visible everywhere, and pedestrians can be seen hurrying along the road occasionally. Jiang Chen glanced at the mission description and knew that this mission was definitely simple. Was he Taosim's trainer some scare? Before Jiang Chen could react, he was conscripted into the army. A squad of tall black knights suddenly appeared around Jiang Chen. The azure soulfire from the gaps in their helmets stared coldly at the patrolling captain. He could even summon skeleton soldiers, with a large number of corpses on the battlefield. There are countless ways to exploit bugs. Perhaps because Jiang Chen is still human, these guards did not take any hostile actions. Orcs have always had a bad reputation. The city walls were littered with corpses. Jiang Chen opened the Book of the Dead. The moment the Tome of the Dead was opened, in this situation the detonators always amplified infinitely. It could be said that he single-handedly held off a quarter of the orcs. The extra warriors could support other directions. Naturally, he would be respected by everyone. Jiang Chen's had the Black Knight dismount and take over the defense line. Jiang Chen is now too lazy to let the gargoyles carry weapons. Anyway, detonators are very cheap to make, so Jiang Chen doesn't feel bad about using them. Jiang Chen didn't have time to check them. He was now fully prepared to fight with unparalleled skill. Jiang Chen summoned 4 of them at once. The skeleton soldiers beneath the city walls began to show signs of launching a countercharge. Jiang Chen remained unusually calm at this moment. The orc commander in the distance watched Jiang Chen display his might on the city wall. Several catapults were already aimed at Jiang Chen. Even with his protective gear, he might not have fared well. Jiang Chen himself was fine, but the Black Knights guarding him were smashed into mincemeat. Jiang Chen himself had also almost been injured. Unfortunately, the ranged weapons used by orc archers are very crude. Most of them are the simplest birch bows. Their range and power are predictably limited. They are completely overwhelming at close to medium range. They could only watch helplessly as large numbers of blasting explosives. Orcs may be fierce, but they are also afraid of death. They would be the ones who suffered losses. The city lord of the hero city also appeared very dejected. They weren't something anyone could just take out. Otherwise, given human greed, he would have lost half of his savings during this assessment. The city lord knew that such powerful magical items would certainly be expensive. He must still have some in stock. The city lord also knew that Jiang Chen that Jin would definitely take it out and use it. He wouldn't just say that the item was expensive. Jiang Chen's meaning was very simple. He simply wanted more money. And this is hardly a pie in the sky promises. It's uncertain whether this city could have been defended, but Jiang Chen also had a cloak that allowed him to fly. Jiang Chen's experience taught him never to have any illusions about human nature. The construction and manufacturing functions of the Book of Law are all closed here. He quickly discovered the bug in this world. The city lord's face was somewhat grim. The city lord stared at Jiang Chen in disbelief. The city lord led Jiang Chen to the warehouse where strategic materials were stored. It could immediately relieve the orcs' siege. Spending money to avoid trouble is definitely worthwhile. A large number of rare materials were piled up in one corner of the warehouse. They will be deemed invalid the moment they are taken out and immediately recycled. Zhang Chen's unconventional move seemed to shock even the recycling system. The city lord didn't mention taking back what he had already handed over. There were also several figures shrouded in wide black robes. Their size and the weapons they held made it clear that they were definitely killing machines. Stunned, Forests. At this moment, he was holding a huge two-handed greatsword. They quickly discovered Zhang Chen's small group of cavalry. The advantages of powerful heavy cavalry in the era of cold weapon warfare were fully demonstrated. No matter how many chaotic unarmored infantrymen there were, they could not stop the charge of heavy cavalry. This is war, not a duel game among nobles. They can only have a temporary effect and cannot pose a fatal threat. This orc hero was of a relatively high level. Unfortunately, he was ultimately outnumbered, and his head was severed by Zhang Chen's two-handed greatsword. The price was that Zhang Chen was also hit solidly by the battle axe. Zhang Chen would probably have been injured. By daybreak, there were very few people left in the orc camp. The main problem was that Zhang Chen's troops were too small. Most of the orcs escaped in the chaos. He then found an open space to sit down and rest. They would only be more exhausted after they came to their senses. The assessment finally ended, and Zhang Chen was teleported back to his territory. Luojia was startled and ran over to grope him. He didn't say he would be seriously injured. The Lord's book is still calculating its rewards. The chat on the channel was lively. The Lord has killed 11,245 Tier 3 Orc warriors. Detected that the Lord has killed an orange Tier 2 Orc commander. The Lord has been detected to have killed more than 10,000 orcs. The Lord has repelled the invading orcs. The Lord's defense time was detected to be 24 hours. The defense mission has been successfully completed. The achievement Master of City Defense has been obtained. He has been rewarded with a golden treasure chest won. The points were still so enormous that others could hardly match them. Compared to Zhang Chen, they all seemed to be flying. Therefore, the best option is to simply stop competing and ignore the first place winner. However, Zhang Chen was clearly somewhat dissatisfied with this score. The main reason is that troops cannot be brought this time. This was only because he had the advantage of firearms. He might not have been able to get even 100,000 points. Zhang Chen would definitely be able to annihilate the orc army in a short time. Zhang Chen was truly slacking in martial ethics, cheating by using the Book of the Dead. Zhang Chen would probably have no choice but to adopt a turtling tactic. It would be almost impossible to truly dominate the leaderboard and deter others from catching up. Zhang Chen has absolutely no reason not to accept it. A potion worth 150,000 points is an extreme luxury for any power. The physical strength boost that a dark gold grade potion can provide is definitely not low. He now understands that health is the foundation of everything. This statement is an undeniably true truth. Zhang Chen would never miss an opportunity to improve his physical strength. It looked like it had a very small capacity. He discovered something was wrong after drinking the potion. There was also Sisca, who was watching the drama unfold. This shameless doll simply closed the door and distracted Roja. His personal morality and qualities were basically still above average. They can only have one legal wife. The chieftain might even possess most of the tribe's females. She was just startled by being suddenly tackled. When Luojia suggested bringing her sisters over, she had already foreseen the current situation. Amy's loyalty has increased by 2 points. Currently at 100%. Amy's loyalty has reached 100 points, and she will be unaffected by espionage, temptation, etc. She was somewhat dissatisfied with the rough treatment she received on their first meeting. She quickly forgot the unpleasantness that had just occurred. Of course, this also has its advantages. Zhang Chen sometimes felt both angry and fond of this shameless alchemical doll. Sisca didn't press further about how Zhang Chen had suddenly obtained it. Zhang Chen was originally somewhat curious about Siscan's mother. The red dragon is the leader of the 5 colored dragons. Zhang Chen can now achieve the same level of strength as when he was fully armed. The rarity and value of the flaming red dragon potion are evident. They are condensed into a small bottle of bright red potion. The fact that she could create such a powerful potion speaks volumes about her strength. Furthermore, Sisca's wicked personality also suggests how formidable this witch is. He would not want to meet this mysterious witch. Zhang Chen would never complain about having too many or too strong heroes under his command. Subordinates like Luojia and Amy, who are 100% loyal, are also his women. Zhang Chen will never forget them when he has something good. He had to give up on the matter. Zhang Chen does indeed have a slot for a split. It is foreseeable that Zhang Chen will not conquer that place in the short term. Thinking about the silly things other transmigrators often did, Zhang Chen had a headache. He didn't know whether this decision was right or wrong. However, Sisca can still see a lot of new knowledge that he has never encountered before. He upgraded the nearby Temple of Death to gold as well. He always felt that the alchemy laboratory and the Temple of Death were radiating golden light. Lich Gruis's loyalty has increased by 5 points, currently at 95%. Zhang Chen nodded and said to Gruis, "It was another bumper harvest, but this time the harvest consisted more of residential buildings." He had accumulated a vast amount of magical power. Zhang Chen's magical power after advancing was nearly twice that of mages of the same level. Zhang Chen directly built a large steel furnace and a weaving factory. In the industrial zone, Zhang Chen wasn't actually worried about being attacked in Avalon. Despite having 2 offensive tier heroes, he might not be a match for him. This combinations is enough a city interested people to see what they want. Luo Jia suddenly appeared out of nowhere and insisted on going with Amy. The door was forcefully pushed open from the outside. Zhang Chen raised his hand to stop him, but he had great faith in his intuition. After all, he and Zhang Chen had just discussing business, signed a peace agreement. Rocky's head was spinning when he heard about this. The leak of the savage totem is no longer important. What Loki really wants to know is how he was inexplicably tricked. Rocky had absolutely no idea how he had fallen victim to this. These past 2 days, Rocky has been getting angrier and angrier, feeling more and more cheated. It's only natural that 2 opposing forces would use any means necessary to win. But Rocky never imagined that one day he would be dragged down by his enemy's cleverness. This is something Rocky absolutely cannot accept. Zhang Chen never said that he obtained the savage totem from Loki. Zhang Chen's favorite type of opponent is one who is only half-baked and incompetent. They speak of defeat before victory is achieved. Zhang Chen was undoubtedly that kind of person. Zhang Chen had given him far too much. Rocky got up to leave, but then realized something was wrong. He could make them weave a sack by hand. As expected, Zhang Chen's answer was exactly what Rocky had anticipated. Of course, this was just an excuse Zhang Chen made up on the spot. The worst-case scenario could be that the entire Holy Alliance would unite against. This was not the outcome Zhang Chen wanted at all. Rocky shrugged, said nothing, and left his shop. Zhang Chen revealed a somewhat amused smile. The Lich is a special unit among the undead. They were all scholars among the dead. Luo Jia was a little annoyed that her pleasant shopping trip was interrupted. Zhang Chen casually asked the Lich who was leading the way. Zhang Chen nodded and didn't ask any more questions. He had heard of the disco graveyard. It was said that its owner was a powerful undead hero of the gold rank. Zhang Chen immediately understood why he had been targeted. Luo Jia and Amy were not afraid at all. They looked around curiously and even picked up some fruit from the table. As a spirit of the dead, he has lost too much of his emotions. No matter what the relationship is between these 2 cat people and Zhang Chen. Moreover, Lord Anlakara does not like subordinates who are overly curious. He knew that the real culprit had come knock fine. This is a truly powerful undead hero, an immortal king who has lived for countless years. The fact that 2 orange-tier heroes could react this way, his power has only just begun to grow, and he only recently ate 2 wildcats. Otherwise, who knows if Anlakara might do something to his soul. In short, Zhang Chen would absolutely never become an undead. Zhang Chen simply could not discern what kind of emotions a skeleton could possibly display. He naturally had some questions to ask. Even when Zhang Chen mentioned needing military support, Anlakara was not shocked. An undead wizard whose lifespan was unknown. For the undead, who possess infinite time, material possessions are no different from dirt. It was considered the lowest grade among orange-level accessories. It could fetch several million gold coins as Avalon. But, to put it bluntly, blueprints are just blueprints. Exchanging orange-level items for orange-level blueprints is always a profitable deal. Of course, this is only in theory. The monopoly of powerful buildings is not limited by race or faction. It is almost impossible for powerful unit buildings to be randomly distributed in any faction. Zhang Chen took the blueprint and was quickly drawn to it. Once used, transformation into a lich is inevitable. This is also the score from the previous assessment. Zhang Chen left the shop with Lawrence and Grouse. Zhang Chen was very satisfied with this transaction. He could upgrade high-level items simply by collecting points from basic resources. High-level architectural blueprints are extremely rare and hard to come by. Jiang Chen opened many treasure chests, but high-level building blueprints appeared very rarely. The highest quality items were usually just props, not blueprints. Jiang Chen's rise to prominence is still too recent. The goods he planned to trade with Loki were now ready. Jiang Chen felt no emotion whatsoever regarding the potential punitive campaign by the Holy Alliance. Jiang Chen discovered that the Fox women were all very intelligent. He has a natural talent for calculation and territory management. Some of the heavy physical labor can be left to the skeleton soldiers or black knights. The entire territory was under his control. The loyalty of these fox women was constantly increasing due to their superior living conditions. They had now gained Jiang Chen's trust. They are weak and easy to control. Jiang Chen opened the Book of Lords and selected the Lich Laboratory. The Lich Laboratory was intended to be managed by Gruel. The Temple of Death and the Zis Laboratory were built together. Consumes resources. Can increase the Lord's magic skill level when a Lich is present. He bowed slightly to Jiang Chen and said, Lich Grove's loyalty has increased by 3 points, currently at 98%. Grove's loyalty has risen again, and it's clear he's very satisfied with the Lich Lab. This is a core skill for necromancers. Jiang Chen has not particularly looking forward to this skill. Banshee's Lament, Green is learning. 59 minutes remaining. Jiang Chen knew that this was only the calm before the storm. However, there are still many that can be discussed. The upper house and the House of Representatives were in constant turmoil. They were so pleased with the situation before, but now they feel incredibly frustrated. It would have been surprising if they hadn't acted this way. This kind of greed is still a bit too ugly. A total of 200,000 troops were deployed. A large number of troops were gathering in the city of Silviedo. This is a message sent back by Diana. The figure of 200,000 soldiers is highly questionable. Jiang Chen and a dazed Luo Jia arrived at the city of Silviedo. They watched Diana pointing and gesturing on the military sand table. Luo Jia was even yawning beside him. She was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He still had to pay attention to it strategically. The royal family was involved in most of the actions. That saying they're cowardly might be a bit inappropriate, but they're definitely too protective of their reputation. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They could just conscript young farmers from the villages. They are unwilling to waste them on the battlefield. The papacy's behavior is much more unsightly. Jiang Chen already had some understanding of the various forces. There are 6 factions in total, each representing a different stance. To put it bluntly, the Duchy of Violet was too powerful. No other race is more skilled than humans. The second is the aristocratic faction, led by the royal family. Over time, backwardness and incompetence have become indelible labels for this faction. After all, the Holy Alliance is not entirely without external enemies. Of course, such a wish is just that, a wish. The royal family's ambitions were doomed to fail. In Jiang Chen's view, there was a reason why the royal family targeted Violet's territory first. Violet's territory is located at a key transportation route and has no allies. It is only natural that she is being targeted. No ruler would tolerate a behemoth like Violet's territory. The third faction is the Temple Power, led by the Church of Light. The two sides are fundamentally opposed in their positions. The gap between them is even greater, the gap between races. The Temple forces are inherently opposed to the imperial power. This has been the case since the Holy Alliance was established. They have been secretly fighting each other for countless years. They had to do something to survive. They were also undermining the foundation of the nobles' power. The vast majority of nobles turned a blind eye and pretended not to see it. They are actually slow-moving and harmless herbivores. They are easily defeated by any larger predator. Those foolish minor nobles were keen on infighting. They were completely unaware of their own limitations. Without advantages in weaponry and logistics, it's questionable whether they could even defeat the slave army. Such an army is looked down upon even by other factions within the alliance. It's good to have a few more cannon fodder to block the guns on the battlefield. The fifth faction is the Orcish Alliance, which is eyeing the land with covetous intent. He didn't have the extra energy to cause trouble for the Holy Alliance. It's not that Jiang Chen is targeting anyone in particular, something that the iron swords of the cold weapon era could not withstand. In some ways, the transmigrators were no different from the alliance of minor nobles. They are now unwilling to elect a leader from among them. She knew that Jiang Chen was definitely not someone who could bear loneliness. He was the kind of person who would treat war as a business. However, she realized that she had underestimated Jiang Chen's bottom line. Jiang Chen had no intention of placing his hopes on others. This was the time to use them. The number has been adjusted to 10,000. Recruitment is now 10,000 enhanced Black Knights appeared in the territory. Once they charge, even gold-level heroes have to temporarily give way. Of course, supporting cannon fodder units are still very necessary. Jiang Chen directly summoned 100,000 Tier 5 skeleton soldiers. The skeleton summoning skill would probably have just been upgraded. At this moment, Jiang Chen's enemies were still unaware of the true nature of their opponent. The seat. A red cloak was draped over his back in a flamboyant manner. Duke Simon was in charge of a magnificent command post. They were all dressed in magnificent noble robes. The battles they proposed all had a high success rate. The only difference was which side suffered greater losses. The cold glint in their eyes revealed their extreme impatience with these fools. Duke Simon was an ambitious nobleman, with decent abilities, far better than these boastful nobles. The vice-commander is also known for his iron-fisted nature. The Temple Knights are an army truly forged in iron and fire. The two of them should have known the importance of unified command and dispatch. In that case, their elite troops would also suffer heavy losses. In some ways, they were no different from the noble lords specified here. There's a saying that goes, "The vassal of a vassal is not a vassal at all." The current predicament of the Duchy of Simon is a smaller version of the Holy Alliance. But this is indeed the current reality. Duke Simon could not even reprimand the minor lords. Duke Simon has command authority during wartime. He would have countless ways to do so. It would cause the minor nobles to band together in resistance. He would be effectively sidelined as Duke. This situation is very common and is mainly caused by the ideology of society. The command center would be in complete chaos. They had already discussed the distribution of spoils after the war. This was just to confirm the other party's opinion. Simon didn't say much, ignoring the chatter of the nobles present, and looked at the map. They have already covered half the distance. Jiang Chen's army was less than 10 kilometers away from Duke Simon's allied forces. The march of an army of living beings is not so simple. The advantage of heavy cavalry is not just long-distance raids. It would not be a march but rather an exhaustion of the infantry. A tired army would have no fighting capacity. But Jiang Chen had no such concern. His troops are all on the move day and night. The undead don't have the negative effect of fatigue. The distance here is beyond the range of the Ash Tower. The scouts around them were lazy and lacked a sense of crisis. The downside is that it's not very comfortable. Jiang Chen ignored the little wildcat's words and looked at Lawrence. Unexpectedly, Lawrence agreed with Roja's opinion, except that he was the one leading the charge. Jiang Chen was really looking forward to a hero with the ability to fly. Having a commander and not having a commander are two different things. Those that didn't die were knocked to the ground and unable to get up. Duke Simon walked out of the command room with displeasure. These heavy cavalry have a special status. Their treatment is different from that of ordinary units. Their tents are all surrounded by the command room. Duke Simon was not one of those brains-atobles. He immediately recognized what the undead flying in the sky were. These advanced units rarely appeared on a large scale. Simon's had no choice but to move to the rear, undergone the guidance of his guards. Most of those useless nobles were the same. Even the most advanced gargoyles are still just advanced constructs. His first thought was to throw away all the extra detonators he had. It resembles a dwarf's cannon, but is fundamentally different. The dwarven cannons only have an attack range of a few hundred meters. However, now was not the time to think about such things. He cut a gargoyle that was diving down in half. Duke Simon had no objection to this. He might have objected to the deputy commander's usurpation of power. They are particularly vulnerable to damage from the light attribute. Gargoyles are still undead creatures, and their light attribute attacks are naturally effective against undead. A well-organized legion of longbowmen is terrifying. Some gargoyles were unable to dodge in time. Jiang Chen, watching from the sky, looked somewhat grave. It seems the Holy Sea of Light has really gone all out. Behind him were tens of thousands of black tsuts. The sheer power of the heavy cavalry charge meant there was no need for scouts. It was clearly armor of at least the purple grade. Those wearing purple grade armor are at least centurions. This was the only chance of victory he could see. He would only see a one-sided massacre. Jiang Chen also had the gargoyles throw out their secret weapons. A large number of impact detonators were detonated during their descent. Jiang Chen even lowered the gargoyles to ensure accurate timing. Many ordinary detonators were also mixed in. Their second precise volley was also destroyed by the gargoyles' perfectly prevented explosion. The longbowman phalanx was almost half destroyed. The Black Knights had entered their charging range. Most of the undamaged warhorses were still in a state of fright. Less than 30% of the cavalrymen could calm their mounts in a short time. Heavy cavalry with and without warhorses are completely different types of soldiers. The deputy commander looked at the elite soldiers gathered behind him. These excellent knights trained by the temple were still as reliable as ever. This is a highly motivated and faithful legion of paladins. A look of sorrow appeared in his eyes. His battle cry was as loud as ever. Jiang Chen silently watched as the vice commander, leading knights without warhorses, launched a near-suicidal charge. Gross's implication was that Jiang Chen should not hold back. Jiang Chen would respect such a person, but he would never sympathize with such a person. In particular, the Longbowman Legion that has regrouped is an organization that Jiang Chen's must eliminate. Their bravery could not make up for the gap in strength. He and his knights were scattered by the high-speed, charging Black Knight, but in the end, he was still swallowed up by the black tide. When the endless white skeleton soldiers appeared, the order of the camp completely collapsed. It has been proven that winning a war is easy. The deputy commander leading the team was killed on the spot. Even the lowest grade spears, after being enhanced once by Jiang Chen, could fetch a considerable price. Most of the armor and weapons worn by the heavy cavalry were of green quality. Regardless, this time he really became rich overnight. Gruis stepped forward and began refining the vice captain's soul to create a soul coffin. Finally, seemingly trying to persuade Jiang Chen, they gave the reason why they hadn't been killed. No one would be foolish enough to risk their life. Jiang Chen had no objection to this phenomenon, nor did he feel any aversion to it. The essence of social formation is a class pyramid. Jiang Chen had no intention of challenging the existing aristocratic system. He ordered that the nobles be treated to good food and drink. Opening treasure chests is always a pleasant experience. No matter the time, Jiang Chen had been collecting fragments of the Book of the Dead. He had once exchanged for one during the Lord's assessment. This was the second time he had obtained fragments of the Book of the Dead. All three attributes of the Book of the Dead have been significantly enhanced. The Undead Surge attribute is even more remarkable. This is a deadly threat to many important figures. The weapon is a double-edged dagger with a hollow center. This weapon is not intended for assassination at all. The side effects are also very good. It was an unreasonable force in both close combat and ranged attacks. The Golden King Beast poses such a great threat that the entire Chaos continent must unite. In the absence of gods, Golden King Beast is an invincible force in the world. The elite warriors of all races on the Chaos continent were mobilized. The combined power of all the sets is still greater than that of most semi-divine artifacts. He was disappointed to find that he could only create the shape of a coin. This is not because the gold lacks power. It's just that Jiang Chen's mental strength is currently not at the level of ultra-miniature engraving. Jiang Chen already had a plan to make money. Jiang Chen began to examine his other spoils. Of course, it is just an energy core, and other things can be used as substitutes, just like the mythical power furnace that Jiang Chen used when he upgraded. Upgrading the main city is not a problem as long as there is enough energy. The Undead Soul Energy Tower are all excellent energy cores. The idea of selling it had crossed his mind, but Jiang Chen immediately dismissed it. The Lion Fang Knight is an excellent unit. Jiang Chen had long since switched to the Undead faction. The rest were just some low-level gadgets. Jiang Chen said he was still somewhat taken aback by the luxurious decorations inside the tent. The leather tents around the perimeter were even decorated with incense to prevent any unpleasant odors. Luojia was very unhappy when she was woken up. She has a terrible temper when she wakes up. Before Jiang Chen could even speak, Luojia started making a fuss. Jiang Chen looked at the somewhat embarrassed Diana. Jiang Chen was an adult male who held great power. It was normal for him not to have many women around. She had even carefully considered her relationship with Jing Chen. In particular, Jiang Chen's body was not as thin as that of an ordinary mage. Instead, his muscles were well defined, yet not overly emphasizing his strength, exuding a masculine aura. As soon as Jiang Chen entered the tent, Diana immediately asked him questions. In Diana's view, the battle between Jiang Chen and the nobles was not a big deal. It will be a sign of divine might. In short, the emperor is never wrong. There are many intricacies involved here, and it's all about strategy and tactics. It appears that Jiang Chen is secretly clashing with the Holy See. It is the royal family and the Holy See secretly wrestling. However, the problem is that Jiang Chen lacks martial ethics. Jiang Chen was clearly determined to kill them. For an orange-tier hero in his prime, this is worse than killing him. She might have already turned it into a soul coffin by now. This is a direct declaration of war. It's normal for Diana to have doubts. Jiang Chen smiled, not surprised that Diana had this question. The most formidable was Duke Simson's allied forces. Jiang Chen's choice was which side to fight. It's more accurately described as fence-sitters, who are always on the sidelines. The previous Duchess Violet could barely be considered neutral. The fate of being neutral is to be targeted by everyone. Jiang Chen shook his head and said mysteriously. Diana didn't understand what Jiang Chen was talking about. Therefore, Diana could not understand what Jiang Chen said. As a traditional noblewoman, Diana could never have imagined why Jiang Chen would be so rebellious as Prizit. In comparison, the Holy See is much more united and efficient. It at least proved that they weren't a complete mess and had some potential. It might indeed highlight his greatness and brilliance as the boss. There are some things that Diana needs to figure out for herself. Jiang Chen said that Duke Simon's envoy would arrive for negotiations in the next 2 days. Jiang Chen had already planned for this. After all, his subordinates couldn't all be undead. He had already made this plan during the war. He's the boss, yet he doesn't have many people under him who can share his burdens. Before he became the leader, he personally handled everything, directing the army and formulating plans. Jiang Chen's words were like a prophecy. The ransoms paid by nobles are also openly priced. Jiang Chen asked for a total of 4 million gold coins. A large amount of basic resources could bring about miracles. The notary is the Goblin Merchant Guild. The ransom is also paid through Avalon, after being tallied, and a certain fee is paid. This is also a relatively common notarization method in mainland China. The reputation of the Goblin Guild is well known. It has always maintained a neutral position. Jiang Chen actually hoped they would breach the contract. He would have a reason to beat them up again. Moreover, the war reparations received next time will be even greater. The war has reached this point and is over. Jiang Chen ordered Vega to lead the skeleton soldiers back to their territory. He had the behemoth that was the transmigrator channel. They weren't the kind of people who would kick someone when they're down. It can only be said that reality is always more absurd than fiction. It's easy to imagine how foolish and weak they were. They were clearly militiamen, randomly recruited from the village. Jiang Chen suddenly understood why that luxurious military tent was considered extremely shabby by the nobility. It is actually a city radiating outwards from the castle. A sharp glint flashed in Diana's eyes as she said coldly. Jiang Chen had taken over every corner of Tulip Castle. She had envisioned many scenarios of facing him now. She would loudly question Crow about why he had betrayed the Violet family. But it wasn't until she actually faced Crow that she realized how calm she was. Those who dared to resist were basically the kind who knew they were doomed. His once radiant golden hair seemed to have lost its luster. Crow was taken aback, then burst into laughter. Of course, that statement is also a lie. The fate of this young knight was already sealed long ago. He probably had never felt this level of humiliation. The real humiliation is not to trample him underfoot. It was a kind of arrogant condescension. She knew exactly what kind of person Jiang Chen was. She was still more noble than Crow. Crow felt extremely unwilling, because he understood the implied meaning in Jiang Chen's words. Jiang Chen felt a little bored, and lost interest in saying anything to him. He waved to the Tag Knights who were holding him down. He did know that Jiang Chen's subordinates were all undead. Seemingly sensing Jiang Chen's difference, Crow finally turned his plea to Diana. Jiang Chen has always looked down on traitors like this. This come scarce obscurity lords, and by he opened the Book of Lords and checked the prompt that had appeared earlier. Tulip Castle is a relatively traditional human city. This city is perfect for developing the human faction. He can now use the building Batur blueprints he has accumulated for the human faction. One of them was a blueprint that Jiang Chen had been looking forward to. It would be good if 1 out of 10 tier 10 units could successfully advance. It would be more accurate to say they are locked down. The upper echelons have so much profit to offer. Jiang Chen was originally looking forward to opening a treasure chest. Jiang Chen had never really considered such a thing before. Jiang Chen may seem to have no scruples in his daily life. Jiang Chen looked at Diana and chuckled. Especially after Diana and Jiang Chen have children. Jiang Chen left the reception hall of Tulip Castle, and Luo Jia followed behind him listlessly. After Jiang Chen left, Diana watched his departing figure and sighed, her emotions unreadable. It seemed she was lamenting her own shamelessness, having so easily sold herself out. The two had no common, emotional foundation, and even discussing marriage felt like haggling. However, as Jiang Chen said, this is already the best solution. Some apprentice knights in the city were not all traitors. Now she is accompanied by 2 personal maids, who have grown up with her since childhood. Most of them were guards, knights, and nobles who had participated in the rebellion. The highest-ranking noble was a powerful viscount, but after the duke's downfall, he was the first to speak out. It was unexpected, yet also within expectations. These people must die, and this is only the first batch. Those who betrayed her must be dealt with. It is better than sowing the seeds of future problems. The traditional aristocratic clothing was too tight. The executioner raised his blade and brought down heads. The people below no longer looked down on the little girl on the platform. Watching Jiang Chen's figure disappear into the teleportation array, Diana returned to the office her father had used before his death. The maid who was serving outside pushed open the door and came in. The teleportation array was flashing with magical light. It's important to know that Amy is very important to Jiang Chen. He suspected that Amy might have been bullied. He knew Amy's personality well. She was soft and easy to bully. However, Jiang Chen still dissatisfied with Amy's behavior. She needed more experience before she could take on important responsibilities. Jiang Chen had actually noticed long ago that Amy's level was increasing rapidly. Amy is now a 7th level alchemy apprentice. No matter how good the teacher is, Jiang Chen wasn't sure if it was just his imagination. It is certainly one of the first few. Bringing them back would just turn them into wasteful manure-producing machines, not even worth modifying. Jiang Chen handed over the corpses of several heroes that Gruus had processed to Sisca. Among them is an orange-level high-ranking paladin, who is an excellent base material for alchemical golems. Several cat girls and fox girls were also helping out in the alchemy lab. Jiang Chen would complete the construction of the hero trial grounds as soon as possible. Jiang Chen could still take Amy to Tulip Castle to advance. It would be better to build one there. Jiang Chen has the ability to advance in rank. Jiang Chen arrived at an open space behind the castle. Jiang Chen had stockpiled a lot of basic materials. He also had a piece of the heart of the warrior in the Tulip Castle. Only a clear division of interests could ensure the stability of an ally's position. The hero trial arena was quickly completed. Jiang Chen's focus of development has once again shifted northward. However, Jiang Chen could not tolerate anyone daring to suppress his development. The Pale King alone is a gold-level hero. The only option left was to target the far north. Exploring ruins in the wild is also a shortcut for time travelers to grow quickly. During his exploration of the far north, Vega had already gathered some intelligence. There were indeed some lost high-level undead in the far north. They simply recorded the location of the blueprints and built a rudimentary forward base. Luo Jia was stunned for a moment. It seems he really has something important to do. Luo Jia was forcibly dragged out of her messy room by Amy in the morning. This guy was becoming less and less like a mage. Luo Jia felt nauseous for the first time. The extreme cold of the far north was unbearable even for heroes. The far north is more accurately described as a tundra region than an ice field. There were no obstacles or plants along the way. The Flesh Butcher was an undead unit that Jiang Chen once highly regarded. Unfortunately, this unit would emit a foul stench in ordinary areas, causing disease and gradual decay. Therefore, Jiang Chen chose the Black Knight, a living corpse unit that could last longer. However, it cannot be denied that the Butcher is extremely powerful. It is a truly devastating weapon on the battlefield. Jiang Chen thought about it and ultimately stopped Luo Jia, who was eager to try. Jiang Chen looked at Grouse with a puzzled expression. Jiang Chen stroked his chin and then said, Jiang's thought of himself and realized that it made sense. The Flesh Butcher was no less powerful than the Ogre Warrior of the same rank. It is foreseeable that on the main battlefield, the same number of magic circles as the Butcher of Flesh appeared out of thin air. Jiang Chen's expression was incredibly sour upon seeing this. The magic he uses most often is summoning skeletons. This was just a reflection from Jiang Chen. He was not and never would be a standard mage. Jiang Chen has a lot to do. This is an ironclad rule that Jiang Chen sets for himself. An excellent leader must possess great power. He decided to store these butchers directly into the Necronomicon space. He didn't want to smell the stench of rotting corpses when he had nothing to do. It would make his cats at home furious. Several thousand skeleton soldiers were deployed and quickly explored the area. This mage tower has been frozen for who knows how many years. From a distance, the mage tower looks like it was carved from ice. Lawrence was about to step forward and open the door when Jiang Chen stopped him. Without a magic supply, a mage tower is just an ordinary building. Flesh butchers are the undead's top-tier unit. The mage tower is not only a stronghold for mages. The materials used to build mage towers are not ordinary materials. This is something like a magic notebook or a diary. Jiang Chen found that it was undated. The whole thing was incoherent and illogical. Jiang Chen had heard of these terms before. He only had a fragmentary understanding of them. These things are priceless in some respects, so Jiang Chen certainly wouldn't miss them. This is equivalent to having an extra life. Jiang Chen nodded. He had expected this as well. Jiang Chen wasn't entirely sure, which is why he asked Grouse for his guess. The dead are immortal beings and do not experience natural death. This made Grosse, who was also a lich, feel a sense of shared sorrow. Jiang Chen nodded and took the lead. The entire underground space had been hollowed out. Her long platinum blonde hair was piled high. She looked like a valiant female general. The girl's left hand rested on the throne. The scene was filled with a poignant beauty. The painting was encased in a huge block of ice. She was sealed away by dozens of legendary powerhouses. Her core was divided into 3 parts, to be suppressed separately. Jiang Chen said that he had never seen such an extravagant control panel since he transmigrated. This is what a true gold-tier hero's stats panel should look like. He is not considered a powerful type in terms of combat strength. A message notification suddenly appeared in the Book of Lords. He belatedly realized that the Kleinold family was looking for this doll-like girl. Jiang Chen began to carefully examine the exquisite doll-like girl in front of him. This doll girl named Cocotte has been asleep for unknown reasons. Her body has even been divided into 3 parts. The ancestors of the Kleinold family may have obtained the silver medal right arm by chance. In any case, this secret was passed down. 40 years ago, the Kleinold family was purged by the royal family and became outcasts. The Kleinold family seemed to have little luck. The location of the 3rd component was still unknown. Jiang Chen would already have the strength of a gold-level hero. It wasn't that Jiang Chen was bored. Jiang Chen built an ash tower and a portal here. In his memory, Amy was very well behaved and sensible. The territory is getting bigger and bigger now. Jiang Chen thought for a moment and nodded. Jiang Chen was actually still considering taking advantage of the slaves. There are too many secrets in the territory. She stood motionless in front of the body of Cocotte that Lawrence had brought back. She turned to stare at Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen felt anger on that face that had never shown any emotion before. Sisca was waving her arms to emphasize her words, which showed how emotional she was. He then remembered that Sisca's seemed to have an unexpected obsession with seniority. Jiang Chen assumed she was grieving and offered her words of comfort. Jiang Chen nodded and didn't argue about it. The technology and materials of the power core are unknown. It seemed that skipping the tasks and directly claiming the reward wouldn't work. Before Sisca could finish speaking, Jiang Chen interrupted her. A hero like Sisca is not an ordinary hero. Jiang Chen never has any bottom line in scheming against them. Jiang Chen would never betray his 2 friends for so-called benefits. The automaton Sisca's loyalty has reached 100 points. Jiang Chen suddenly felt that Sisca's gaze was somewhat fervent. It wasn't that Jiang Chen was exploiting Sisca's labor. She would never spend time in the library searching for information. Activating the guidance of fate, Jiang Chen opened the golden treasure chest. The building materials for the flesh mill were easy to gather. Jiang Chen simply found an open space in the troop's summoning area. After Jiang Chen confirmed, a blood-soaked, extremely ominous building gradually revealed its ferocious outline. Jiang Chen upgraded it without even looking at it. Jiang Chen could have sent them to the hero trial grounds to try and become heroes. The recruitment resources for the flesh butcher were also giving Jiang Chen a headache. The warehouse only had about 200 death gems left. It is said that the god of death bestows gifts there. The most valuable item is the orange tier hero. The flesh mill was operating at full capacity. Jiang Chen was very satisfied with the attributes of the butcher. The heavy weapons here are generally used by ogres or giants. Jiang Chen is a celebrity after all. In 2 consecutive Lord assessment, he left the 2nd place with an absolute advantage in points. His score was higher than the combined score of the 2nd to 9th place transmigrators. They were all of level 6 or higher. Good heavens. Those ogres could take on 10 infantrymen each. And that's an understatement. The world channel's messages are useful, but there are just too many ridiculous transmigrators. The moment the message was sent out, the damage of this weapon was simply due to its weight. This is still a heavy weapon that a flesh butcher can use. Jiang Chen decided to ask about the price. From this perspective, being blocked by Jiang Chen is definitely a huge loss. Jiang Chen was unaware that Xu Mengqi held a grudge against him. Jiang Chen hasn't raised prices on the channel yet. Jiang Chen thought no one would send him blueprints. Dong Fu was stunned when he saw the message, but at the same time, he became somewhat wary. Jiang Chen is not as harmless as he seems. On second thought, Dong Fu felt relieved. The flail was originally a farming tool used by farmers to thresh grain. It was gradually transformed into a weapon. The destructive power of its swing is such that even heroes dare not take it head-on. A purple-grade weapon has a level 6 destructive power. This is enough to show how terrifying it is. Of course, this weapon was not designed for human use. The solid wooden handle alone is nearly as tall as a person. The weapon's weight would require several adult men to lift. However, it is perfect for elite killers. Dong Fu has gradually come to enjoy being on the front lines. However, that wasn't what Jiang Chen cared about. He had other considerations. Dong Fu no longer wanted to ask himself where he had slipped up. Everyone knows that the former is more helpful to the territory. But he still did it. Given the choice between the two, the truth is easy to guess. Jiang Chen selected a blue-quality orc spear he had captured from the warehouse. Jiang Chen also gained a blueprint for a double-headed flail. Having collected the blueprints, Jiang Chen smiled. Let them see what a battlefield meat grinder is like. The tower shield is no different from the kite shield. The raw material for hero puppets is the corpse of a hero. Elite killers are recruited from buildings, and with enough resources, they can be mass-produced. Luo Jia has often spent the night in Jiang Chen's room, but such an honest Luo Jia has never appeared. Luo Jia's appearance and personality are both more like those of a delinquent girl. This wish could only remain a wish forever. Getting back to the point, Luo Jia is this well-behaved. Luo Jia would just glance at him when he entered the room. Her black and gold claws were clearly not ordinary tools. Her image in Jiang Chen's eyes would probably plummet. Even Amy, who was eavesdropping, didn't get a good night's sleep. Jiang Chen was just about to get up when Luo Jia thought she had been wronged. She was also Jiang Chen's first woman in this world. He never skimped on the body-strengthening potions that Sisca had made. But lying down is out of the question with Jiang Chen. The other cats and foxes weren't left behind either. Those with alchemical talent were diligently studying alchemy. The thought that little Amy might eventually surpass her level made Luo Jia's ears droop. Jiang Chen shook his head and prepared to get up and have breakfast. They just thought it was bad luck to have encountered a hidden necromancer. So Luo Jia is certainly not a masochist. She was devoted to him because she truly felt the warmth of family with him. She already knew last night that the black gold claws were a gold-level weapon. Jiang Chen finished his breakfast and looked at the drowsy Amy. Jiang Chen hugged the excited Demo and said with a smile, "The sale of slaves is actually not allowed within Avalon. The cost of just using the teleportation array would be considerable." The slave trade happened everywhere. It was nothing unusual. Goblins are merchants who value harmony and making money